September 6, 2017. I remember me and some of my friends playing together, absolutely loving the game while we were leveling. We were all prepared to spend countless hours together, delving deep into the sequel we and the rest of the fanbase had been yearning for. But, as you may know, for a lot of players, including myself, this is not what happened. Destiny 2's lack of content and shady business practices led a lot of players to stray away from the title. Through many bumps in its road, however, it seemed to get its shit together. Or has it? Going to be talking with a human Destiny encyclopedia and also a close friend of mine, and hopefully by the end of this you'll have a good idea where the game is at. I'm Ryan from the 8th Network, and today I'm proposing the question, should you return to Destiny 2? Hey, what's up guys? I'm joined here by my friend Joseph, also known as Pekamomo on PlayStation, and I'll have his other plugins in the link in the description. What's up, Joe?
Not much. I don't think I've ever been plugged for something before, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, you're definitely gonna be plugged today. When did you first start playing Destiny? Yeah, I mean, I know the answer to this question because I'm almost positive it's day one of Destiny 1, correct?
Yeah. Well, even before that, I was a beta player or whatever. Or was not. I did not hop on the alpha bandwagon. I was not an alpha person. But there are a few people who played a little longer than me. Not many, but yeah.
Damn. And you've been playing, you don't have to say it, how many hours you think you have total?
Ooh, yikes. See, I know the number.
Total over all, every character?
If I include D1 and D2?
Yeah.
Because, I know my total hours for D1 because D1's basically done with, and you don't really hop on anymore. But if I take into account D2, because now D2's been out a lot longer than a lot of people realize. The game came out in 2017, almost 3 years old.
Damn.
But if I combine both of them, I think I'm about at 4,000 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot.
4K, that's fucking nuts.
I'm like a TV, dude. I got 4K.
Damn. I was just establishing your credibility. You're very credible.
A little bit. I know my Destiny.
Yeah.
I do have the logo tattooed on my forearm. So yeah,
there you go. I'd say that's some more credit. Destiny mega fan for sure. How often do you think you play now?
Oh geez. I don't want to say every day, just because there are some days, just because I go to school full time for people that don't know and work. On a day where I don't have a full work schedule or school, I will be on every day. I'm at least on several times a week still. One thing that has changed from D1 to D2 is I definitely don't run 3 characters consistently anymore. Just because I could not imagine.
I play the game now and there's no way.
I just don't have time. I kind of wish I could, just because a lot of the classes have cool things now, but I just don't have time.
Yeah, 3 is a lot. 3 is definitely a lot. So I wanted to go over the life cycle of Destiny 2. So what was Destiny 2 like during vanilla? Because I remember me, you, and some of our other friends, it was midnight, the midnight launch, and they had the memories thing where you could see who you played with and who you defeated old raids in Destiny 1 and
yeah, I still have all those saved. They made it so that if you were a returning player, they would transfer all your big key accomplishments. So the very first Vault of Glass clear you had, it would put up a screen with the date and then the fire team you completed it with. And it did that for pretty much all the raid completions. The first time you beat the main story, I think there was a card. If you went flawless in trials for the first time, I had one for that. So things like that. And I remember, I definitely remember being so excited seeing that, reminiscing, because it's nostalgic, I spent a lot of time played in Destiny 1, as we previously mentioned, so seeing all those things come up again is, it's emotional.
It was, and I think that's going in with the nostalgia and everything, and wanting to continue loving the game. Me and you, correct me if I'm wrong, we loved up until, leveling up. I loved leveling up in Destiny 2 when the game first came out. I thought it was really
I enjoyed it.
I don't know if it was just
I enjoyed the progression because D1 launch was a very Destiny 1 vanilla and Destiny 2 vanilla are two very different experiences. But I think one of the things that turned a lot of people off initially with D2 vanilla was that Destiny 1, like I previously said, finished so strong, and then Destiny 2 felt like it started like it took 5 steps back. D1 went out on such a bang, and then D2 started out, meh, and it turned a lot of people off.
Yeah, because there was a bit of a drought in content.
Yeah.
Then some shady stuff going on with Bungie and Activision?
There
Like,
was some
lying to players about like XP gains and stuff like
they
that.
they were throttling experience gains at one point because they were tied to like the in-game engrams you could unlock, but like they were the same engrams that you could pay for through the store. EXP throttling is kind of shady regardless because you're like limiting players, and to be honest, in a game like Destiny you should never want to do that, but specifically because it was tied to the pay for engrams,
People got pissed.
people were upset, and rightfully so. I was upset.
No,
It didn't prevent me from playing the game. I know a lot of people that just like kind of outright stopped. I just kept grinding away like I had and still do.
So why were players? Because at this point, I wasn't playing the game anymore. Why were people? Holiday, I remember especially. People were just so pissed off. Was it because they just weren't adding anything? Was the DLC delayed? What was going on with that?
To be honest, I don't remember the exact timeline of when that news came out, but I remember when the first DLC came out, I was excited. It just, once the DLC came out, and like usually with Destiny DLCs, you could play it right away and you'll get a good grasp on whether or not it's going to be good, just from like preliminary findings or whatever you want to call it, just like first impressions with it. With the first DLC, it was just poopy, like right away you could tell that it was just bad.
That was Curse of Osiris?
Curse of Osiris was the first Destiny 2 DLC, yeah.
Because when I was playing, because I played the game now on PC, but I had everything. So some of the other DLCs I just sort of like breezed by because I didn't have to do anything, and I didn't.
Yeah, and I
didn't
don't
experience
blame you.
Which might have been for the best, because of what you're saying. The end game of Curse of Osiris, because like you had to play Curse of Osiris or the game just with that DLC for a while, right?
Yeah.
Was there like a raid, or what did they add?
Curse of Osiris added a raid lair, which was basically their first implementation of like an add-on to the Leviathan raid.
It wasn't even a new raid, it was just an add-on? Because I personally did not like the Leviathan.
I've had my initial gripes with the Leviathan raid when Destiny 2 first launched. Like I remember going in blind, it was still fun, because going into blind raids is just a fun experience in general.
Yeah, you get to figure things out for yourself.
Compared to the D1 raids, a lot of people don't like Crota's End. I still enjoy it as a raid, especially after they updated it with Age of Triumph.
Just for just for the what was it called? Like when you dropped down and there was like all the thralls running after you.
Like the descent.
The descent. That was I love that. Just because of the memories of their friends. Sorry, I'm sorry. Continue.
Like a lot of people don't like that raid because it feels like short, or you could like cheese the boss when it came out or whatever. So a lot of people don't hold that one as high, but for the most part, all the other Destiny 1 raids are held pretty high. And myself included, like when I first played Leviathan and completed it, I was disappointed. They had this great arena, this great character. The mechanics and encounters just felt boring. So then when the news came out that Curse of Osiris wouldn't have a raid, which the only DLC in Destiny 1 to not have a raid was House of Wolves, and they caught a lot of flack for it not having a raid.
Yeah, I remember that being one of the worst DLCs in Destiny history.
Well, regardless of the rest of the DLC, it was just people wanted a raid in a DLC. So I felt like they should have learned from that. Apparently they didn't. And then to hear that the end game content we would get with that DLC was just an add-on to the already existing raid that I felt was underwhelming was disheartening. But to be
with the
fair,
other stuff on top of that, the game wasn't in a good state already.
Yeah, so I think Destiny 2 was at its worst, not when the game came out, but during the first DLC, actually. So I think Destiny 2 Vanilla was better than Curse of Osiris, just because Curse of Osiris was such a disappointment.
And what was the one after that?
Warmind came after Curse of Osiris, but there was a decent time gap, if I'm not mistaken, between the two, and the actual only time I've ever felt like a very low desire to play Destiny 1 or 2 was during Curse of Osiris. During Destiny 1, there were lulls in content. There were 100% lulls in content where there just wasn't stuff to do, but I still played, and I still played regularly. Whether it was by myself or not, Curse of Osiris was the only time in Destiny 1 or 2 where I just had no desire to play whatsoever.
Wow, shit. So Curse of Osiris was December, and Warmind was May.
Yeah, it was a long
of just
drought.
Nothing. Of just
of
nothing.
Just nothing. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's part of what turned me off is because the length of how long I had to wait.
Yeah. Do you think that was the lowest point at Destiny player count in that content drought?
Yeah, I wholeheartedly believe that.
Damn.
At least in Destiny 1,
Yeah.
before House of Wolves introduced Trials of Osiris, you could at least play the raids. And people like to play the raids, but with Curse of Osiris, there was only one raid and a lair, and people didn't really want to do it because there was not great incentive to play the lair. I think Destiny 1 and 2 was at its worst during Curse of Osiris.
And then Warmind seemed kind of cool playing through, because like I said, I just had to breeze through it, basically, the story missions. But
yeah, to like level up.
Yeah, they introduced that new character. What was her name? Like
Anna Bray. Yeah.
Anna Bray. She seemed okay. I don't know.
She's all right, you know.
I
think Warmind.
Destiny doesn't have a lot of likable characters, I feel, and they just killed off the most likable one. So
yeah, I think Warmind did a lot for Destiny 2, even though the DLC, looking back on it, wasn't fantastic.
What did it
like
do?
Warmind was okay.
Yeah.
But it was like just good enough to like kind of bring people back
because the bar was already set so low. So
the bar was already abysmally low. Like it was just so low after Curse of Osiris, and like I don't mean to shit on it because like I know people worked hard on that shit, but like it just wasn't good. And you know, as a consumer, like you expect something from a game, especially like technically Destiny's a franchise, you know, and I've put time into it as a franchise, so there's like, you know, an expectation that I expect it to meet.
Oh yeah, and rightfully so, with the price point and everything too.
Yeah, and price points too, especially because like Curse of Osiris and Warmind, when it came out, you could get like the season pass or whatever, which I think made it $30. But like looking back on it, Curse of Osiris should have been like, they should have paid me to play it. It was that bad.
And then after Warmind was
Warmind was Forsaken.
Forsaken. Okay, I just wanted to make sure there wasn't, because that's the big topic.
That's the big
this.
one.
Yeah. I wouldn't make sure there wasn't anything in between.
They've done these things kind of sprinkled in, and they started doing it, I believe, in year 2 of Destiny 1, where they do like these intermittent like holiday event sort of things, where they're like free events, but
I remember those.
Minimal content, where there'll be like a winter update, a Halloween update, a Valentine's Day thing. You know?
And like
and they're just like small things. Yeah. And it's really just small stuff, but it's enough to get you on for like a day or two and just kind of like dick around with your friends for like a little bit. Other than that, yeah, Forsaken was the next thing after.
It's a very different game. Vanilla Destiny 2 and Forsaken, correct?
Oh, 100%. It's like night and day.
No, yeah. So the weapon slot changes. That wasn't Forsaken, correct?
Yes, and that was like no, actually, it came with Forsaken, but it was free to all players the week before Forsaken came out.
Okay.
Is when they officially like changed the slots around, and you could use special weapons again and whatever. Well, that's partially why the game felt so boring.
Because the weapon restrictions?
Yeah, because you'd be sitting there like doing a raid, but you'd only have either like an rifle and a scout rifle, and then like your rocket, and it just felt like so bland. There was just no diversity.
Yeah, because if you have, let's say, like a hand cannon and a sniper rifle, and then a rocket launcher, obviously you can't use a sniper rifle and a rocket launcher a lot, so you're stuck with a hand cannon the whole raid, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
For primary, scout rifles, pulse rifles, auto rifles, and hand cannons, and those have been...
That's like the staple.
Yes.
That's been the staple since Destiny 1.
And then they added sidearms, bows, which are fun as fuck. And
they are. Bows came with
SMGs.
Forsaken as a whole. Like, bows weren't in the game until Forsaken, period.
Oh, okay, cool. Dude, the second I got a bow in that game, I was like, there's no going back. The bow is just my go-to.
I feel the exact same way. As a huge, like, Crysis 3 fan, like, I loved using bows in video games. And, like, when I heard that they were adding bows to my favorite game, I was ecstatic. I was like, are you kidding me? Fuck yeah.
Yeah, and it's nice because bows are also special weapons. Subtle Calamity is the name of a special bow, right?
Yeah, that's one of the nice things that came with Forsaken is not only did they add stuff, but then they added stuff to both slots to kind of appease all the masses. So, like, there were still some people who liked the old system for Destiny 2, where they're like, oh, well, I like 2 primaries, you know? Like, I like using auto rifles, and I like having 2 of them. So they were like, all right, well, we're not going to stop you from continuing what you like, so you can still use 2 auto rifles, but we're not going to prevent people from now using an auto and a sniper, or like an auto and a fusion.
Yeah, exactly. The special is all the ones listed previously. Shotguns, fusion rifles, sniper rifles. There's some grenade launchers, special grenade launchers.
There's single-shot grenade launchers.
Single shot, okay. And then trace rifles, which I've never seen a trace rifle. I don't know what that is.
They're basically one of them's a PlayStation exclusive, which for some reason they still feel the need to do that in 2019. But regardless,
that's a different show.
A trace rifle is basically like the focus rifle from Halo Reach. It's just like a continuous beam as like a gun. It's like a laser rifle, pretty much.
That sounds pretty cool. If I fucking got one as a drop, I'd probably.
Yeah, they're not bad. The only 3 in the game are all exotics, and they're each one of each element, pretty much.
And then heavy, there is rocket launchers, the grenade launchers, linear fusion rifle. Did linear fusion rifles come with Forsaken?
I believe linear fusions were in the game in Destiny 2 Vanilla. There weren't many of them. I think there was like maybe 1 or 2.
Oh, okay. And then
but
swords.
there was the 2 exotics in Destiny 1, Sleeper Simulant and Queensbreaker Bow, were linear fusions before they were called linear fusions.
Okay, gotcha.
So they like existed in the universe, they just weren't called that until Destiny 2. One thing I do want to mention is when they did bring like the weapon slot changes, they were like, hey, we're going to do this thing where if you want to use 3 shotguns at once, we're going to make primary shotguns and we're going to make primary snipers. There are certain weapons that are in primary slots that are special weapons. The new pinnacle weapon for so like the pinnacle weapon for season 6 is this scout rifle I'm playing right now and I'm using it right now. But it's an energy weapon, which means it's in the secondary slot. But if I wanted to, I could still use a sniper. It would just be a kinetic sniper. So like they kind of allowed for a little bit of diversity in that aspect, which is nice and welcome. It's just a shame it took a full year and a $40 DLC to finally get to that point Destiny 1 ended on. It goes back to the 2 steps backwards thing,
yeah.
Where it didn't make sense why they would have done that. They tried to like over casualize the game for Destiny 2 Vanilla, and then it just backfired on them.
Power level. So the level cap was obviously raised to 50, and so each DLC was plus 10 levels. No,
with the bigger DLCs, they'll do a bigger jump. Okay. So from Vanilla to Curse of Osiris, I believe it was only 20 to 25, which is why it felt so shitty.
All the WoW expansions that were like that felt like that too.
It might have been 28 or something like that. Sometimes they do obscure numbers, and I'm having a little difficulty remembering. But then I know Warmind, I think, raised it to, I want to say 30, and then there was like a random free update that raised it to 32 or 35 or something along those lines.
Really? That's weird.
Something like that. But then Forsaken bumped it to 50 because it was like a substantial DLC, so they wanted a substantial bump.
That's also a nice number.
Yeah, plus 50 is a nice round number.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, once you hit level 50, not, oh yeah, once you hit 38. It's like, what?
This sounds weird. Marketing too and everything. Nightfalls. So when I did my first... I don't like them. I really don't. But when I did my first Nightfall that I did from Destiny 2, playing again for Forsaken, I was like, wait, what? It's a race? What? I was so confused. And I died, and I didn't get sent back a big chunk. I was a little disappointed, honestly. Yeah, in Destiny 1, there was a mechanic that was removed, but there was a mechanic where, like, if everyone on your team died, you were removed and you'd have to start over. I love that. But the Nightfall was very challenging. You'd get good shit from it, or in theory, you'd get good shit from it. In Destiny 2, they took that out, because at the end of Destiny 1, they also took it out, which a lot of players said that they didn't like, which I don't know why they kind of ignored that and then went with it anyway. But regardless, they added this whole, like, strike scoring thing at the end of Destiny 1, and it was alright because, like, score could, like, be shown on, like, emblems and stuff, and it was, like, this kind of gimmicky cosmetic thing for, like, PvE people to kind of, like, flex, be like, oh yeah, I got like 300,000 on Epic's Prime, but which is kind of cool. I've always liked looking at other players and being like, holy shit, I want that, and then I'll get something really, really cool, and then another player will look at me and be like, holy shit, I want that. It's a cool chase cosmetic, but that's all it is. And with Destiny 2, Nightfalls just felt so, like, meh. You know, like, they're boring. As a whole, in games, I don't like to time things. Me neither. I like to take my time. Like, it's not the challenge of a timed event. It's just the fact that I'm racing against something that's, like, artificial. That always bothers me as a gamer. Not just in Destiny, in everything. So, like, I've never liked it in that aspect. Eventually, they did kind of, like, adjust the way some of the scoring works for Nightfalls, and then they adjusted
kind of how Nightfalls work as a whole. So Nightfalls have kind of gotten better, and then there's like tiers of emblems you can get now. So like once you reach a certain threshold score, you'll get like a different emblem or like a chance at a different emblem compared to something else. Okay. And then that ties to getting like, they kind of brought back strike specific drops, which I don't know why they took them out, because people liked them in Destiny 1 and a lot of them were really good and they were like cool chase items. It was like you had to do the specific Nightfall to get it. And a lot of them were pretty good, like Imago Loop, Grasp of Malek. Like I remember grinding hours for certain weapons, you know, like tons of hours for specific rolls and like random rolls.
That's what I was going to go into next. Weapon randomization.
I think that's one of the things that hurt Destiny 2 Vanilla potentially even more than progression, and content, was just like...
Just no random rolls.
If I didn't have anything to chase, then why would I bother playing?
Yep.
Because like once I got this specific gun, I knew it could only roll with this specific perk, and like once I got it,
it was a casual implementation.
Yeah, it was a static roll, like it was static items. Which, yeah, again, casual, because the over casualization of Destiny 2 was its downfall. Not even that; it's just certain static rolls were just garbage. So you knew as a player, if I ever get this gun, I know it's going to have this set of perks, and I know it will always be dismantled. I know that there's nothing good that can come on it because there's only one option, and it's poop.
But they changed that, correct?
But then they eventually changed that with, again, Forsaken. Which I don't know why that took so long. That should have been a Warmind change, honestly. Yeah. Or that just should have been a Curse of Osiris change. I don't know why in hell that took so long. But again, I believe that was also free in line with the changes to like the weapon slots. I think they made it so that all weapons would just drop randomly.
So like a week before the expansion came out?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, they did that. But that was an extremely welcome change that never should have had to be changed in the first place.
The other night, I remember I'm like sending you a video. I'm trying to figure out which auto rifle is better, or, you know, or just shit like that. And it really does had a whole
but that was
other factors of the game.
That was part of the fun of Destiny 1, was like getting a really good rolled weapon and like sharing with your friends, or like taking it into Crucible and like beating the shit out of people because it was a really good roll. And you just couldn't do that. Yeah, exactly. And like a lot of perks in Destiny 2 were just kind of meh. A lot of the guns only had one perk, where it's just like, oh, this has Zen Moment and that's it. It's like, why do they only have one perk?
At that point, just don't put any.
Yeah. It's one perk and it's static. Like, why?
So yeah, that's obviously, like you just said, very welcome change. And then they added triumphs as well.
Okay, so
the sound,
triumphs?
Real quick, before I get into that, the sound for when you click the triumph is so, like, somebody made that sound in mind knowing that it's going to get people addicted to doing that.
Oh, absolutely.
That's one such a satisfying sound.
I will give Destiny as a franchise a lot of credit for. The UI, like the user interface in Destiny, is phenomenal. Everything is very smooth. Like the buttons are satisfying to press.
Yeah.
Like the noises they make when you like complete a little goal.
Yeah,
or
weapon feedback, just like the
like
noises and everything. You know? Yep.
Yeah, like when you masterwork a weapon and you hear the little like blacksmith hammer go off. Like it's such a short little soundbite, but it's so satisfying.
It really is.
Yeah, but triumphs were something they did in Destiny 1 where they did record books, where they're basically like these books, which was just like their way of saying, it was just like a tab you would turn to when you hit like your settings. Like you'd open with options, your character would pop up, to the right would be like your volume and controls and all that garbage, and then like to the left you could like track stuff. So it was just their way of like compiling everything they wanted to be tracked in like a single update into like a book, so they called them books. And that's when they first started doing like achieve this goal in game and then check it off, you know, keep track, which to be fair like sounds kind of boring by itself.
There's titles though, they added titles as well.
Yeah, but then when you attach like certain rewards, like in Destiny 1 they attached rewards for reaching certain like scores. So like if you completed every triumph on the raid page for the Age of Triumph book, you would get like this really dope raid emblem that like no one had. And I remember like when I finally got that, I was like, this is fucking sick. I had to do like all these like challenge modes and all this garbage. Once you finally got it, like it just felt rewarding. But with Destiny 2, when they added the triumphs, which triumphs weren't in Destiny 2, which again, don't know why, ended Destiny 1, they were there. Destiny 2, no. With Forsaken, the record books came back, or not record books, the triumphs came back, and you were able to like track things again. But then they added these things called titles, which, like you said, the titles are really fucking cool. Titles are basically these like little, I guess, nicknames that you would get for completing everything for like a certain given like task within the game.
Yeah, so
like if you
like Dredgen, for example, that's the Gambit game modes. That's centered around the Gambit game modes.
Yeah, so like I have Dredgen, and that's something you have to like complete. I won't say every triumph to get, but they make you complete a lot, and they make you complete a lot of specific ones. And then once you do, you get the title, which is basically like it's in purple because like your username will be in white, and then that'll come up in purple and like below your name where like everyone can see you.
Which is
and it'll
cool.
show like, hey, like that guy's a Dredgen. He played the fuck out of Gambit and probably wanted to die the whole time doing it.
which is it's cool. But my problem was some of them they weren't like it required you to have multiple characters. It was like, do this as a hunter, do this as a warlock, do this as a titan. I don't like the title sounds cool, and I want to be able, like I want to chase those titles, but I don't want to level up 2 different fucking characters just to get it, just to get the triumph. It seems like a waste of time.
With some of them, they're like that, but with like Dredgen, like I don't have the Gambit triumphs unlocked on my warlock or titan. They're tied to like the collections thing, which is this separate tab that keeps track of all like the unlockables tied to a specific like activity. Like if you get all the unlockables in Gambit, the full hunter set, all the weapons, the ghosts, the ship, and like the exotics tied to it or whatever, you would unlock the collections thing for it, and then you have to unlock the collections thing in order to get Dredgen. So like unlocking everything in the collections counted as a triumph.
Okay.
And then that turned into unlocking the title. That's where most people struggle, because right now I have Dredgen.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm missing for Wayfarer and Cursebreaker are the collections tabs. Just because there are certain unlockables that are
it's random, right?
Completely RNG based, and they're ridiculously low. So like there are people who've done certain activities like dozens and dozens of times, and like they're just trying to get, like all they're trying to do is get this stupid like sparrow or ghost to drop, and it just won't drop because it's like a random cosmetic drop.
Ugh.
And that's like super disheartening as a player, because like you can complete the raid like 50 times and just not get something, which is ridiculous.
Jesus.
But you know, it's a grindy game. Like I don't
you gotta know what you're signing up for,
you know, yeah, exactly. Like it's a title, it's supposed to be hard. I get that. The Crucible one is really hard to get, just because it requires this like ridiculous like glory rank triumph thing, which is in and of itself, like if you play a lot of Crucible, you can get it. It's just like a grind.
No, yeah.
Plus like comp is disgusting.
New exotic gear.
Yes.
There was a bit of a lack of. Some people thought there was a bit of a lack of exotics, right? Compared to Destiny 1.
I wouldn't say a lack of exotics. I would say a lack of meaningful exotics. Because like Curse of Osiris, there was this one set they tried to do where like all 3 classes got gloves, and it was called like the Aeon, and it revolved around each class using their class ability. So like the Hunter Roll, the Warlock Rift, and the Titan Barricade, and like each did that in proximity to someone else. They would get energy back for that respective ability. Okay. But if you did it with someone else wearing the armor, they'd get like even more back. Which like in theory sounds cool, but well, it sounds cool, but it's also gimmicky. In practicality, like you'd roll next to someone, because like I play mostly Hunter, like I would roll next to someone with them on, and they'd get back like 1/10 of their barricade. Well, it was like completely useless, and it was like a garbage exotic that they still to this point have not touched. And like a lot of old exotics have been buffed because like they don't get used. Those 3 have not been touched or even addressed for that matter. So like I don't know what they're doing with that. But exotic weapons have improved a lot. There are definitely some creative exotic guns now. A lot of the guns that came with Black Armory were pretty good, which it's a DLC revolving around an armory. The guns should be good. Black Armory brought, I want to say 3 exotics.
I feel like a lot of the legendary weapons sometimes just outclass these exotics completely.
They made a lot of the legendaries, like they gave legendaries their own perks, and that kind of is what makes exotics exotic, in my opinion. So like I said, the pinnacle weapon for Season 6 for the Vanguard is like you do all the strikes, you do this like obscene amount of kills, and then like you make like a ton of ore, and then you can get this scout rifle. And the scout rifle has a perk where like landing precision hits like increases the damage of Firefly, which is this perk, or Dragonfly in Destiny 2, where like when you get a headshot, it does like this big AoE. So you basically like land 3 crits, and then if you kill on the 4th, it'll do like this very big explosion, and like it's just like a big explosion, you know?
Yeah.
But there was this gun added in Warmind called the Polaris Lance, which is a scout rifle that has a perk where, yes, a primary. They're both actually solar, which is even funnier because the Pinnacle gun is a legend solar, and the exotic is an exotic and it's also solar, but they basically have the same perk where Polaris Lance is like you land 4 precision shots, and then it like loads like a supercharged 5th round, and then like when you hit that, it does like a big AoE, which is cool, and like Oxygen's cool, but Oxygen kind of does. Oxygen is the name of the scout rifle, the legendary Pinnacle one for the Vanguard, the newer one. But like that kind of does the same thing that this old exotic already did. So why wouldn't I use the legendary and then use my exotic slot on something else? Things like that.
Different stuff.
Yeah, the Pinnacle Crucible hand cannon I mentioned earlier, the Howl, it has this perk where like you land rapid precision hits, and then it'll like kind of insert this like bonus buffed round, and like it shoots really fast. It's like a 180 RPM hand cannon, and it's just like a really good hand. Completely dominates Crucible on the console, at least, which is where I play. When Thorn came out, I was super excited because like I love Thorn. It's like an old gun I used to love playing, but when I tried to take it into Crucible and use it, I would just get smacked by people using Luna's Howl. It's an exotic, so it shouldn't automatically be better than something else. But because it's an exotic, and because you can only have one exotic equipped at once,
you feel like that weapon should just...
I feel like it should be powerful. You know, I should feel strong when I'm using Thorn and Crucible, and I just don't because hand cannons on console, if they're not a 180 RPM, are kind of bad.
I remember we were talking about that, and I was so surprised when you said that Thorn wasn't very well on Crucible and console, because I mean
it's not bad. Like I can chain kills together and like get the perk to proc.
But it's not like the meta. It's not like the meta.
It's just like I can turn off my brain and use Luna's Howl and do twice as good.
No, yeah, because Thorn is like one of the best, up there with Ace of Spades. Ace of Spades and Thorn are like the 2 top hand cannons in Crucible right now.
Ace of Spades is still very good on console, which is weird because it's not a 180 RPM, but the recoil and the perk, I guess, I don't know, it's just good.
And I haven't gotten that one yet because the quests. I've gotten more exotic quests in the game than I have actual exotics. I've been playing the game again for 50 plus hours, which isn't crazy. You know,
but that's a good amount of time.
Past couple weeks. Yeah, I've gotten 1 exotic drop. 1.
That's rough.
That could just be partially luck too, but it's got to be also the fact that I don't know. Did they lower the drops and just add more quests? Because there's so many quests, and that's not even exotic quests. There's just
that was another problem with Destiny 2 Vanilla, is that it wasn't necessarily that the exotics were bad, which a lot of them were. Yeah. It was also that like everyone had them because the exotics dropped like candy in Destiny 2 Vanilla. Where Forsaken, I didn't get all the Forsaken exotics until like I want to say a day before Black Armory came out. So
oh wow! So it was dropped.
It was like months where I was just hunting for like these like 1 or 2 pieces of armor. The weapons less so. The weapons I had good luck on, but I know people like there's one guy I play with. He was just gunning for this 1 Titan exotic, and he just got it like 2 weeks ago. Like it was like a full 6 months after Forsaken came out.
That reminds me of Vanilla Destiny 1.
Well, that's what I told him. I was like, it could have been worse. You could have had Vanilla Destiny 1, but at the same time, it was a different experience. Like I remember the very first time I got my Thunderlord on Destiny 1.
So do I. I remember when you did.
Yeah, I'm sure my whole neighborhood. But like with Destiny 2, I remember I was super excited to get one of the guns in Forsaken, and like when I finally got it to drop, I think I got it after like a month or 2. I want to say like a month and a half, almost 2 months, which is like a decent amount of playing time. I was like, oh nice, I got it, like sweet. But then like that was it. Where like when I first got Thunderlord, I was screaming,
Oh yeah.
It's just a different feel. I don't know. Which, you know, I could attribute to me being older, but
Everybody trying to get Gjallarhorn in Destiny 1.
yeah,
Like,
that
that
was
was
such a big
nuts.
thing, you know,
I
like
feel like
everyone
you-
remembers their first Gallon.
Yeah,
no
and
one
you don't hear
remembers
about
their
that
first
anymore.
Wardcliff Coil, you know, like
I got Thorn recently. That took me quite a bit of time.
yeah,
But,
Thorn was a little bit of a grind.
because everything was fine except for the void hand cannons, because I hadn't used hand cannons at all yet, and me being stubborn as hell wanted to just run Blade Barrage. So I was just like running around. So what I did at first was I there was like this green void sidearm that was automatic in my collections. So I used that for like the first half, and I was just like, okay, whatever. I'll just conform and you know, pick the void, the Night Stalker subclass, and got myself a hand cannon and everything. But the purpose was also to kind of teach you to use hand cannons. For me,
Yeah,
at
it's
least
supposed
it
to be
was.
That's
It
kind
was-
of like the lore. Like Thorn is this hand cannon. Like it's closely tied to the last word, which is another hand cannon.
Mhm.
Like they wanted you to use hand cannon.
Yeah. No.
And then like it's a throwback because like Destiny 1, you needed 500 void kills in the Crucible.
And then if you died, it reset you. It like.
And if you died, it like set you back. Which I remember grinding for that in Destiny 1. That was rough
Yeah, I.
because like you had random rolls, so like you didn't have a good void weapon.
You
Like there were no
right.
void primaries. Like you couldn't use a void hand cannon. You had to use either a void shotgun or a void sniper.
Is the slide shotgun meta still a thing? Because I feel like
Shotguns
it's
got-
kind of around still.
Shotguns finally got hit not too long ago.
Okay.
But as a whole, Bungie's been like kind of cautious with like nerfing things. They try to like bring other things up.
Mhm.
'Cause, like that was a big complaint with Destiny 1 is like
Which is smarter.
things would just get nerfed and like be less fun until everything was nerfed and then nothing was fun.
Yeah, if
which I agree
everything's
with.
OP, nothing's OP.
Yeah, exactly. So they started to do that, but then they really had to address shotguns because it was like all people used. People just shotgun ape, especially because there were like some really good ones. And like you could use a shotgun primary with Luna's Howl, the hand cannon. Like you wouldn't need anything else.
Gambit was a mode that was introduced in Forsaken.
Yeah, Gambit was like the first step to them being like, hey, we know people want like this PvE, PvP experience, and like this is it. It's mainly PvE, and then like you can kind of like attack other players, and like you're racing against another team, so it's
Yeah.
kind of got like a little competitive aspect to it.
When I first tried Gambit, I hated it.
I know
fucking
you
hated
don't
it.
like Gambit.
No. Here's the thing. My opinion has changed somewhat. Okay.
Oh,
Gambit, I still hate. I still think it's stupid. Gambit Prime, however,
oh god.
I don't know what it is. The fact that it's one round, you know, you try to summon the primeval right away. It's a lot more fun. Maybe it's because I have the whole like invader set. So, and I like invading. And the way it works is when the other team has their primeval summoned, which is the boss they need to kill to win the match. The invader portal, like that, it's constantly going up. So I'll just be going in and killing as many people as I can, and then the boss health goes back up. In regular Gambit, I feel like if you're getting fucking crushed, that's it. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's what I felt like when I was playing. But with Gambit
if you-
Prime, there were matches where the other team would have their primeval already, and my team would have like 3 fucking motes of light out of 100, which is what you need to get. But like if I was a good enough invader, I'd be able to stall the other team as long as possible so that my team could get their shit together, and then we could win.
I've played more Gambit than Gambit Prime just because Gambit by itself was out longer, and then Gambit Prime is still like, you know, the new hotness.
Mhm.
I've played Gambit Prime a good amount.
Yeah.
I like it. I think in the long run, I still prefer Gambit, but that's also
Really?
because they changed regular Gambit to where if both teams win a round, the third round is just like an automatic boss melt, where it's just like a race to kill the boss. You don't have to complete the whole round and like kill all the enemies and go through the phases, because like that was just a chore. Like that took a while.
Yeah, that's another
Especially,
thing.
like-
The match time was ridiculous.
Yeah, the old regular Gambit match time used to be really rough, and it's still decently long. Gambit Prime I enjoy just because like the added mechanics where you can't just instant melt a boss, because that's what people would do in
Yeah.
Gambit. Is like if you had a coordinated team, you could do like some cheese with certain armor sets and just like instant melt the Primeval, and there was just nothing else your team could do or the opposing team could do. I'm a Dredgen. I like playing Gambit. Obviously, I wouldn't have played it as much as I did if I didn't enjoy it,
No, yeah.
but I enjoy Gambit Prime. I enjoy both of them, honestly.
What do you think is the more popular one? Probably Gambit Prime.
I'd say now Gambit Prime.
And then the Reckoning is the other thing that they released, the other game mode. And so at first I got in, and I was just like, okay, this is pretty meh. But then through some item upgrades, you're able to, and leveling up your light level,
Leveling, yeah.
you could do this other tiers. And I wasn't aware of the tiers having different, like they were different. So
mechanics and like
yeah. So when I did tier 2 for the first time, and that like portion in the side of the map just opened up, I was like, whoa, that's pretty fucking cool. Like I wasn't expecting it at all. I was completely blind, and it was just a cool experience to do that. But then you do it a couple times, and then you've done it again. So now I'm waiting.
Yeah,
to get
like
3.
I like Reckoning. I've tried it. I've played it a good amount. I've gotten like my Reaper armor because I like killing things.
Yeah, because you need to. The only way to
and
get the prime armor is with a Gambit
is
armor.
through the Reckoning, which like they've made a nice little cycle. Like you play Gambit Prime and you get like the synths, which you then turn into unlock armor.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Like it's like this small little loop. Like you play Prime and then you play Reckoning, and you play Prime and then Reckoning.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. And like there's progression. Feel like you're working towards something with getting the armor, and then that helps you with Prime. So I like it. It's just Reckoning again feels like this kind of awkward attempt at like a horde mode that Destiny just can't seem to get right.
Firefight.
They tried it with like Prison of Elders, which was like a little different of a thing, but they tried it kind of with that, and then they tried to do like Court of Oryx with the Taken King, and then Escalation Protocol. Warmind was the first time I really felt like it actually did something and like was actually fun and enjoyable. And then Reckoning was like, all right, well, this isn't as good as Escalation Protocol. Felt like a little step backwards, but Reckoning is still fun, and it's different enough where I don't feel like it's like a shitty horde mode. Like it's a fun game mode on its own. It's just I don't look forward to playing it every day. I don't wake up and like can't wait to play some Reckoning. Like
no, yeah. One of the things that kept me going back to that though was the song is called Joker's Wild. Yeah. Because the soundtrack for Reckoning, I think, is fucking baller. And honestly, the whole soundtrack is just amazing. Because it was already...
Destiny is a pretty underrated game music-wise, I think.
Yeah, 100%. And in Forsaken, because I liked the...
Forsaken especially.
The vanilla music. But yeah, they really upped the score in Forsaken for sure. No matter what I was doing, I felt like an absolute badass just because of the music.
Just because the music was good, yeah.
So the story. So as we briefly mentioned before, spoiler alert for
anyone living under a rock.
Everyone living under a rock. But also just if you plan on playing Forsaken, there will be some story spoilers. No, I lied. There will be some major story spoilers. So the story revolves around the Awoken Prince. His name is Uldren Sov. In the beginning cinematic, which I didn't think it was going to happen right away, but it was pretty baller cinematic. You, Cade, and Petra?
Yes.
Petra? It's like a prison, right?
They're in Prison of Elders. Like the actual prison itself, not the game mode.
And there's a big prison break, or what you think is a prison break. I mean, yeah, it's a prison break.
It's a prison.
Yeah, going on. Cade 6 dies. He takes out his ghost. Some of the Scorn... The rifleman, I have his name right here, because it's impossible for me to remember all of them.
I don't even think I could remember all of them.
No, yeah, there's the Fanatic, which is their leader, besides Uldren Sov. There's
the other leader.
Yeah, the other leader. There's the Machinist, there's the Mindbender, there's the Trickster, there's the Hangman, the Mad Bomber, the Rifleman, and the Rider. And then they have like a whole bunch of other new like enemy types. And the Ravagers are so cool. When I first saw the Ravagers with like the cauldron thingy, I was flipping out. I thought that was the coolest thing. Very refreshing. Very refreshing. They're technically a form of the Fallen. I needed a new enemy type.
They're like a new enemy type. Dead reskinned Fallen, even though Siva was already reskinned Fallen, so we've had 2 reskinned Fallen. But
these guys feel a little different.
I don't know. I guess they feel different enough.
Yeah, why? Were you disappointed with them?
Of all the enemies across pretty much all facets of Destiny, I don't like facing the Scorn the most.
Really? I thought you were gonna love them. Oh shit.
They're cool looking. It's just they're annoying to fight, and that's why I don't like them.
Fair.
Plus, like the Fallen are my favorite race, so like to see them
Undermined.
have like zombie versions is like oh.
I guess I get that.
But that's just because I like the Fallen. Nothing against the Scorn.
Did you like fighting all the list of names I just...
Yeah, fighting all of them I like fighting all of them. The progression where like you're kind of like chasing each of them down one at a time.
Yeah, and they give that cool cinematic and everything like that.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I thought it was cool.
Because I was honestly, I mean, it wasn't like a revolutionary thing, don't get me wrong, but I was pretty impressed because I went into it with low expectations, so
Yeah.
I guess anything could have made me really excited, but I had a really good time. And right after playing the Curse of Osiris story, which was so fucking boring.
Oh yeah, Christmas Osiris
It was
story.
just you running through, like, you didn't have to kill any of the enemies. You could
No, you
just
don't.
run through. That's
The
what I
Infinite
did.
Force, you can run through the entire thing.
Yeah,
That's what I did.
yeah, and then Warmind, which I
War Man.
which I honestly ran through that when I could.
Yeah, you can run through that too.
Yeah, so narratively, Forsaken
Much
is
better.
the best. Is one of the best DLC. It is the best narrative DLC, I think, of what I played. Do you disagree?
That and Taken King are kind of tied for me.
Okay.
Just because they both kind of achieved the same thing. They both kind of like. I hate when people refer to it as this, but like, air quotes, saved the game. You know.
No, yeah.
What Forsaken did for Destiny 2, a lot of people forget. Taken King did for Destiny 1.
Yeah, it did. It added
So in that aspect,
a lot of changes, like all the ones we've been going through. For
yeah, but also like from a narrative standpoint, like a lot of the Taken King lore is where a lot of the Forsaken lore comes from. It's like a foundation they built with Taken King that they finally like got back to now. Where they were like, hey, let's like revisit a lot of these key points and like finish some of these stories.
Yeah, like with Uldren Sov, because he was in the first game and then he just fucking left.
He dips. He's like, I'm outie.
Yeah.
I'm dead.
I
JK.
didn't hear anything about him. So, when he dies and it turns out that it was, what even was it?
Riven, which is a Ahamkara, which are like the magical wish dragon
Yes.
in the Destiny universe.
Yes, the Wish Dragons. You told me what happened, and I remember when you told me, I was sort of like, that's pretty fucking lame.
It's like
But when I played
like-
it, I was...
he's like brainwashed, kind of.
Yeah, but when I played it, like,
It was like a poor man's way of explaining it.
it kind of was, and it also might have been a way so that because you can't fight in like, you know, that size model like in game as a boss, that wouldn't really make much sense.
Yeah,
They
it's
probably
like he's
could've
the
done
raid
it.
boss, but you don't fight him as like full dragon form.
I mean,
kinda.
I thought the fight was cool, and I thought the cinematic was cool. I mean, all the Forsaken cinematics were really cool.
all the
but-
cinematics. Destiny has always had good cinematics. It's just like a lot of times people don't care.
Yeah,
The
definitely
stories
in Destiny 1.
not great.
I think they didn't do the best job of getting the story across. You know, they had they had
I
the
agree.
Grimoire cards, which you have to go online and everything. And thank God all that stuff is in game, because there's some really good material, and especially in Forsaken, some of the new lore and everything. Like, I'll just be sitting in game and I'll just be reading those logs.
Oh yeah, with the new like at the time we're recording this, there are these invitations you can get from Xur, and basically like you complete it, and it's tied to the Nine, which are like these like mystical beings that have
Yeah.
always kind of existed in Destiny.
Which is tied to the
And, like-
Drifter somehow, right?
Yeah, and like just now through doing these like weekly Xur kind of like 9 bounties, we're getting like 1 bit of information each week across 9 weeks.
I didn't
And
know
like
that.
it's slowly like it's supposed to be 9 for the 9, and like it's slowly piecing together the story like behind the 9, which have been like one of the biggest mysteries in the universe, the Destiny universe, not our universe, but
Do
you
you,
know.
I mean, hey, for some
Unless
people,
you're really
yeah,
don't
yeah,
get me wrong, I love my but like
They're obviously going to be bringing the 9 in the future, maybe Destiny 3, because
I think
of,
the 9 will be the central focus of Destiny 3.
yeah, because the Drifter, who is part of the whole Gambit thing, he's somehow connected to the 9.
Now you can read that stuff. I don't want to spoil anything. Like that's something you should do.
You know what? When we're
Pick
done
up
with
the
this,
stuff from
when
pick
I'm
up the
done
stuff
editing
from
this,
Xur and
I will,
do those weeklies because they're really cool.
you heard it from Pekamomo. Do your weeklies.
Do your weekly milestone.
With all said and done, Joseph,
That's me.
as a product, do you think that people should return to Destiny 2, considering the price point and all of the changes that the game has gone through?
I think if you could find a copy of the complete edition or whatever they're calling their like
I think it's a legendary
collection.
edition.
Legendary collection or whatever the fuck it's called. I know in Destiny 1 they came out with like a complete edition where it was like all the DLC throughout the entire game's lifespan.
Yeah.
And like now you can pick that up for like $40, which is like a steal in my opinion. I would say the same thing for Destiny 2. If you can find like a collection where it's like Forsaken, base game, and all that stuff for like under 60, I would definitely recommend. If you've played Destiny 1 and never played Destiny 2, I would just recommend it in general. If you've never played Destiny 1 and you've always kind of like been a little turned off because like there's a lot of negative news or just like there's like a negative stigma around Destiny as a game.
There is. It has a lot of bad press.
Because like a lot of the first vanillas are bad and like you have to pay to like keep playing and like people don't like that, which I do get.
The annual pass.
The annual pass is a step in the right direction, I think.
I was a little bummed though because I did get it cheaper because they do have the 3 seasons, and after this current season, there's summer season, correct?
Yeah. So it's $30 for 3 DLCs, which is basically $10 a DLC, and then not only that, but the content across the annual pass is kind of like drawn out a little bit. I don't want to say like purposely drawn out, but they like release things over time so that you don't just like blow through everything, which I do think is a good idea.
Yeah, I was just gonna say Destiny 3.
Destiny players rip through content, myself included.
Yeah, Destiny 3, I'm sure will take that model.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I mean they have to.
I think they've seen enough success with the annual pass, just from feedback. Because like me personally, Black Armory was like all right, but Joker's Wild so far has been fantastic in my opinion.
I think it's been fantastic. The only thing is the price.
Yeah,
but like you said with the Legendary Collection, that's how I got back into it. I saw it was on sale. Then the annual pass I bought. So in total, it was about $70 to get everything back into it.
Which is a lot,
from you. You had to buy the original game.
I bought the original game at launch, which was a $60 AAA title. You know.
And then you have to buy each DLC.
And then each DLC was, I want to say 30, which puts me at 90. Forsaken 40, 130, and then another 30 season pass, so like 160.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for the span of
which it came out September 2017, and like I'm playing up until now, and will be playing in the foreseeable future. So
yeah, so almost a year and a half, $160. It doesn't sound bad, but the fact for it that it's the same game. Yeah,
and to be completely fair, like this is more than a game. This is a hobby. So I play this game a lot, obviously, but I don't play many other games. Period. But also many other games like to this extent. I can tell you right now, I don't have above 4,000 hours in any other game.
I would hope not.
I would hope not.
I'd be a little concerned.
I do need to like poop and sleep and eat. You know, I do those things. Believe it or not.
Oh shit. Overall, you would say, and I would definitely agree with that. Based on my experience with the game, that Destiny 2 is definitely worth getting into at this point.
I firmly believe so. All bias aside, I think it's a solid game where it's at now, and it's only going to get better.
I think so too. I have so much faith, especially with the Bungie Activision split, but that's a different story.
That's a whole nother conversation. But
Joseph, thank you so much for joining me. Really, it's been a pleasure.
Pleasure's been all mine.
We're going to be leaving Joseph's Twitter and such.
Check out my SoundCloud.
Yeah, he's a SoundCloud rapper too. Thank you guys so much for watching. Really, it means a lot. And there'll be plenty more to come in the future. I love you. Goodbye.